I want to talk some college ball. We're joined by the head coach of the Minnesota Golden Gophers. 44-27 in 6 years there. He was the 2019 Big Ten Coach of the Year. Another 9-win season for Minnesota, including a bowl win. In fact, he is 4-0 in bowls since taking over as head coach there. Of course, I'm talking about PJ Fleck. PJ, Happy New Year. Great to have you back. How are you?
I'm doing elite, Jim. Happy New Year to you as well.
You too, Coach. All right, PJ, so you just wrapped up another 9-win season. As I mentioned, also you had that bowl win over Syracuse. You know, every single year is different. Every single year has its own story. As you look back, what would you say were the primary elements of the Minnesota football story this year? What types of things are going through your mind as you look back?
Well, it was a talented football team for sure. Offense, defense, special teams. We talked about at the beginning of the year. We had a chance, we felt, to be a championship football team, whether Big Ten West champs or bowl champs or something like that. We knew that we had some type of championship football team. And this team responded to everything thrown its way. I mean, we lost our starting quarterback. We lost our running back for a game, Mohamed Ibrahim, who arguably is one of the greatest running backs in the history of the game, especially in Minnesota. Lost our top receiver, and we were still able to win 9 games. And that's a credit to our players. We had a really stingy defense. They played incredibly hard, kept us in a lot of ball games. And then special teams, we were very consistent in that side. So we had a bunch of All-Americans, or all Big Ten players, and just really proud of our guys as they continue to go through the year.
We were talking to PJ Fleck. I'm going to ask you about Mohamed in a moment. You know, every single bowl win's sweet. I get this, but you called that win over Syracuse, quote, one of the greatest bowl experiences I have ever had in my entire life, end of quote. What made that one so special?
Well, first of all, just New York City. I mean, there's no place like New York City. That was a blast. Randy Levine and John Mosley and the Bad Boy Mowers people were just absolutely awesome to us. The New York Yankees. When you get a chance to go spend, we got there on Christmas Day, and you're having Christmas in New York, holiday season, plus it's the busiest time in New York City leading up to New Year's. They did so much for our players and so many events, and it was so exciting. Our players just had a blast. It was one of the best experiences. Bowls are about experiences. It's a reward for the season. And there were so many things our players did that they'll probably never, ever get a chance to do again. And that's what bowls should be like. And, appreciate everybody's effort on that because we absolutely loved it, enjoyed it. And it wasn't just the win. It was the 4 or 5 days we were actually in New York City.
It was the Pinstripe Bowl that we're talking about. PJ Fleck is joining us. So, PJ, what about the seniors? You did something over the past 3 years. You won more games over a 3-year period than the program had won since 1900 to 1905. So what did it mean to you personally to see your seniors go out with that bowl win the way they did?
Well, it's probably one of the most resilient group of seniors I've ever been around. And you can start with Mohamed Ibrahim coming back from an Achilles injury, could have easily went to the National Football League. I mean, he had 175 yards in the first half against Ohio State when he did it, and decided to come back and ended up being, first team All Big Ten. He's going to have a heck of an NFL career in the future. But to make that decision when there's a bunch of money for you in the NFL says a lot about his character and who he is and what he thought about his teammates, because they all felt the same way. Now you've got Brevin Spanford even coming back next year, and Chris Altman-Bell coming back next year. Tanner Morgan was a young man that we recruited at Western Michigan. He leaves here as the all-time winner in wins at the quarterback position than anybody in the history of our program at the University of Minnesota. And he was committed to us at Western Michigan and came along with us and had the resolve to do that. John Michael Smith was the same way, and he's arguably the best center in the country. Probably going to be a first-round draft pick coming up in this year's draft. So you're talking about guys who really bought into us very early and saw something that they wanted to be a part of that could help fix it and help turn it around and make it better and be a part of change. And they were. And now I think our brand, our logo, is looked at a little bit different than it was 6 years ago. And that's a credit to those players and those seniors like Mariano Sori-Marin, those guys.
Minnesota head football coach PJ Fleck is joining us. So then you look ahead, right? I know you want to take that all in, enjoy that, but I know you're also working to 2023 already. You wrap up the early signing period with 33 recruits, including 5 transfers. The full impact, of course, of these players is not going to be known until they take the field. But overall, how do you feel about this incoming class?
We feel really good about it. We'll find out in a few years, but what I love about it is, there's a lot of talk about the portal right now and transferring and things like that, NIL. And, for the original intent of why NIL was actually created, I'm 100% in favor for it. We have a lot of players on our team who make a lot of money and are involved in a lot of NIL deals and can make money off name, image, and likeness. That's unbelievable. That's what an opportunity, especially in the Twin Cities, where there's 18 Fortune 500 companies. The transfer portal has been really good to us, and we've lost some guys for the transfer portal. Every team has, and I know a lot of people complain about that, but at the end of the day, we've gained a lot from the transfer portal. There's a lot of guys who are playing in the National Football League because they transferred here. And we got 5 transfers this year. We'll probably add a few more as we keep going forward. But this is still a developmental program. And developmental doesn't mean just high school program. It means, can you develop everybody academically, athletically, socially, and serving and giving spiritually? Can you develop that person from where they are to where they dream of being, period? So I think for us, we look at ourselves as a developmental program. We're going to be majority of high school players, but we're also going to be able to, dip a little bit into that portal of guys who want to be developed and have this opportunity, like Benjamin St. Juste, who's playing for the Washington Commanders. He came here and now, thank goodness, he had the transfer portal. So I can go on and on about that, but for me, that's what we're thinking. We feel really good about where we're at in a lot of positions. We just keep adding depth, and as you can see in the national championship coming up, depth is critical.
We're talking to PJ Fleck. What about that? You mentioned the national championship, which is coming up. You've got Georgia and TCU coming up on Monday. TCU, PJ, obviously is an amazing story. They won 5 games last year. They were picked to finish 7th in the preseason Big 12 poll. What do you make of the job that Sonny Dykes has done with the Horned Frogs?
Well, I think it's one of the best coaching jobs maybe ever. I know Sonny personally. I think he's a phenomenal person, a wonderful coach. And you talk about a person who's been through ups and downs. I mean, got let go at Cal and then, went to coordinate, then was at SMU and had success, and then went over to TCU. But when you look at even what they've done with the high school players, and I think they added 15 portal players to that roster that had immediate impacts. It just shows that as you're building a little bit more as an NFL mindset of like, okay, we're going to keep building for the future, but we're also going to build for right now. And you can do both. And I think they're a great example of that. But I have a ton of respect for Sonny. Max Duggan's one of the best players in college football. I mean, he was so close to coming to Minnesota. He was so close. It was us and TCU. It was so close. But he's a wonderful person. We know him personally. He's a phenomenal competitor. And there's no surprise Max Duggan's in the national championship. And for the people that know him personally and recruited him, there is zero surprise.
PJ, do you think that TCU's best beats Georgia's best? It would certainly be hard to make that argument, but Georgia obviously a heavy favorite to repeat. How do you think TCU, given how they showed up against Michigan, how do you expect them to show up Monday night against the defending champs?
Well, I think both of those teams have an incredible passion to play the game. You can tell they're incredibly connected teams. They play for each other. They got great coaching staffs. They do all the little things really well. They are both explosive offenses. They really do well defensively. They're very different defensively in terms of their schemes, but they play equally as hard. But again, when you get to that, that's why you play the game for 3 hours. Is because there's a lot of things that happen that are inside your control and outside your control. But the team who responds the best to whatever's happening, the best way possible, is going to win that football game. As you could see against the Michigan game, there were so many things that happened that were kind of outside TCU's control, but also were inside TCU's control, and they took advantage of those. And sometimes you've got to be able to respond to win those football games. And a lot of things, like I said, inside your control, outside your control, but it's all about response. And I think that's what TCU and Georgia both have.
PJ Fleck, my guest. So, PJ, you mentioned the portal, and you're going to get some guys, and you're going to lose some guys, and that's the way it is. But with staffs and coaches, it's a little bit different. There's been speculation that Wisconsin head coach Luke Fickell is looking to hire your co-defensive coordinator, Paul Haynes. Is Haynes on his way to Madison?
He is, and one thing I've always said is my job is to be able to develop, young people for the rest of their life, academically, athletically, socially, spiritually. And I take a lot of pride in that, being a former elementary school teacher. I've always loved that part of the job. Well, there's no difference when you're talking about your coaching staff. Right now, Kenny Burns is the head football coach at Kent State. Mo Lindquist is the head coach at Buffalo. Charles Huff was at Western Michigan with me. He's now the head coach at Marshall. Our job is to help these guys grow and become head coaches and become coordinators. That's my job as a head football coach. My job is not to hoard and hold on to everybody forever. My job is to my dream has come true, Jim. I'm coaching at the highest level in college athletics, in one of the best conferences in America, and I'm a head football coach going on my 11th year. So, and I'm definitely smart enough to know there's other people that can do my job, and I'm going to be grateful for it and do it as hard as I possibly can because I'm not the only one that can do the job. But the same thing with my staff. I want them to be able to explore other opportunities. And does it think that it's a rival? Sure. But if it's a better opportunity for him that gets him to where he wants to be, then good. And I'm going to support those guys 100%. Sometimes it's money-driven. Sometimes it's title-driven. Sometimes it's location and family-driven. Sometimes it's fit-driven. Whatever it is, sometimes it's being a head coach. You want to be able to support your staff. And listen, I'm at Minnesota. I know that we have budgets like everybody else, but if I can help them get to where they want to be, that's the job of a head football coach. And I take a lot of pride in that. Some people look at it as a bad thing. I look at it as a great thing. I just think of it differently.
Yeah, listen, I mean, you're pretty clear about that, PJ, and the way you laid that out. I would just say, in a very, very quick follow, do you have any issue at all with how that went down or how that was handled by Wisconsin?
Well, I don't know how Wisconsin handled that, but I will say this is I have a ton of respect for Paul Haynes, and Paul Haynes did everything in a first-class way, and the first class fashion, and as a true professional would, and I support him 100%. And it's about the people. It's not about a play. It's about the people. And Paul Haynes is, my first job was working for Paul Haynes, so. For me, that goes along with the territory. Sometimes people have connections with other people. It doesn't matter where they're at. They just have a connection with people. And my first job was working for Luke Fickell, Paul Haynes at Ohio State. And I know their connection in the past goes way beyond Paul and I's. And if there's a better opportunity for him there that fits him and his family better, I support him 100%. But he did it the right way 100% of the time. He coached his tail end off when he was here. He made our players better. And that's what loyalty is. Loyalty is about doing everything you can to make that place, that head coach, those players, that staff better, period, while you're there. Loyalty is not about somebody leaving you or not leaving you. It's about doing it while they were there, in my opinion, in this profession. Somebody can make their life better. I don't know everybody's circumstances, but if somebody can make their life better, I support them 100%. And Wisconsin's getting a great football coach and a wonderful man.
There you go. Minnesota coming off another 9-win season, coming off another bowl win as well. He is the 2019 Big Ten Coach of the Year, and already looking ahead to 2023, he is PJ Fleck. PJ, so good to have you on. Happy New Year. Always appreciate the conversation and the energy. It's great to talk to you once again.
I appreciate you having us on, Jim. Row the boat, Sky and Go Gophers. Happy New Year. Thanks.
Happy New Year, PJ. PJ Fleck. You shot out of a cannon, as always.